The crisp autumn sunlight filtered gently through the narrow streets of a small town, casting long shadows on the cobblestones. Shops were lined with vibrant displays, fresh flowers, colorful balloons, and enticing aromas drifting from bakeries. People bustled past, each consumed by their own errands, their footsteps merging into the symphony of everyday life. In the midst of this ordinary scene, an extraordinary bond quietly revealed itself, a young boy and an elderly man walking hand in hand. Each carried a brown paper bag filled with groceries. The bags weren't heavy, but the significance of what they carried went far beyond bread, fruit, and simple household items. The boy, no older than 7, looked up at the man with a smile that radiated warmth. His small hand gripped the wrinkled but steady hand of the elder, and his sparkling eyes seemed to ask 1,000 questions without speaking a single word. The old man, with silver hair and the marks of time etched across his face, looked down at the boy with equal affection. Their pace was unhurried, as though time itself slowed down just to honor the sacredness of the moment. This was not simply a walk back from the market. It was a journey layered with meaning, an unspoken tale of kindness, compassion, and the invisible threads that connect human beings across generations. The boy's name was Ethan. His family had recently moved into the town, into a modest house with peeling paint and a small garden that his mother tried her best to keep alive. Ethan's parents both worked long hours, his father at a factory on the edge of town, and his mother at a diner where the smell of coffee and fried eggs lingered in her clothes even after she returned home. Next door to Ethan lived Mr. Harrison, a widower in his late 70s. The town had known him as a quiet man who rarely joined public gatherings. Since his wife passed away years ago, his life had become a cycle of solitude: early morning walks, silent afternoons spent in the garden, and evenings reading newspapers by a dim lamp. Many people in town forgot he was even there. In the rush of life, neighbors passed his house without noticing the old man sitting by the window. But not Ethan. Ethan's heart, young and tender, saw what adults often overlooked. He noticed how Mr. Harrison carried his groceries with trembling hands. He noticed the quiet sighs when the old man bent down to pick up fallen mail. And one afternoon, when Ethan's ball rolled into Mr. Harrison's yard, the boy saw loneliness written on the man's face as clearly as the lines etched by time. "Do you need help with your bags?" Ethan had asked innocently one day after watching him struggle. That question sparked something more powerful than either of them could have imagined. From that day onward, Ethan began visiting Mr. Harrison regularly. Sometimes, he would help carry groceries. Other times, he would sit and listen to stories of a time long before smartphones and computers, a time when children played outside until the stars filled the sky, when kindness was a daily act, not a rare occurrence. Mr. Harrison, in turn, discovered that loneliness could be softened by the laughter of a child. Ethan's curiosity reminded him of his younger self, full of wonder about the world. They became companions, their ages spanning more than 70 years, yet their spirits aligned in ways that defied explanation. Carrying grocery bags became a ritual. It wasn't about the weight of the bags but the act of carrying them together. Hand in hand, they walked through the market streets. Ethan would ask questions about everything he saw. Why are apples red? How do birds know where to fly? Did you ever climb trees when you were my age? And Mr. Harrison answered with patience, his voice steady and kind. Passers-by often smiled at the sight. An elderly man and a boy, walking as though they belonged together, as though they carried not just groceries but the very essence of kindness in their joined hands. What neither Ethan nor Mr. Harrison realized was that their simple act of companionship began to influence others. The florist who saw them pass by decided to deliver free bouquets to the retirement home across town. The bakery owner, who often watched them through his shop window, started setting aside unsold bread at the end of the day for families who couldn't afford it. A teenager, once too absorbed in his phone, was inspired to help an elderly woman cross the street after seeing Ethan's example. Kindness has a way of rippling outward, touching lives beyond the original giver and receiver. What began as one boy holding a man's hand became a wave of compassion sweeping through the town. People began to notice one another again, truly notice. Smiles were exchanged more freely. Doors were held open. Strangers became friends. But kindness is often tested in the crucible of hardship. One winter evening, Mr. Harrison fell ill. His body, worn by years, no longer carried the same strength it once did. Hospital visits became frequent. For Ethan, it was the first time he confronted the fragility of life. "I don't want you to go away," Ethan whispered during one hospital visit, clutching the old man's frail hand. Mr. Harrison smiled weakly. "We all must go someday, Ethan. But what matters is what we leave behind. You see, kindness doesn't die with us. It lives on in the hearts of those we've touched." Ethan didn't fully understand, but he knew he had to keep carrying what Mr. Harrison had given him, the lessons of compassion, patience, and the courage to notice others. Spring returned, and though Mr. Harrison grew weaker, his spirit remained strong. He encouraged Ethan to continue their tradition of carrying bags, but now Ethan often carried both, insisting that he was strong enough for the both of them. One sunny afternoon, when Mr. Harrison was too ill to walk outside, Ethan carried the groceries alone. As he walked through the busy street, neighbors know. Fear. What if they laughed again? What if they tore her words apart the way they tore her notebook? After class, Ms. Parker knelt beside Emily's desk. "You don't have to, sweetheart," she said gently. "But if you want to, I'll be right there beside you." Emily looked into her teacher's kind eyes. She thought about the torn notebook, the laughter, the loneliness. Then she thought about the words she had written, words that had helped her survive those moments. Maybe, just maybe, those words could mean something to others too. She swallowed hard and whispered, "I'll try." Story day. The day finally arrived. The classroom was decorated with colorful drawings and posters. Parents had been invited to listen, and the atmosphere buzzed with nervous energy. One by one, students went to the front to share their stories. Some read funny ones, making the audience laugh. Others read about adventures, dreams, or their families. Then it was Emily's turn. She walked slowly to the front, her pink dress swaying with each step. She clutched her notebook tightly, her hands trembling. When she looked up, she saw rows of eyes staring back at her classmates, teachers, parents. Her throat went dry. But then, from the corner of the room, she saw Miss Parker. Her teacher gave her an encouraging nod and mouthed the words, "You can do this." Emily took a deep breath. And then she began to read. Her voice was soft at first, shaky like a bird learning to fly. But as the story unfolded about a little girl who found courage in a magical garden, her voice grew stronger. The room grew silent, every ear tuned to her words. When she finished, there was a moment of stillness. Then applause. Real, heartfelt applause. Emily's eyes widened. She had expected laughter, but instead she saw smiles. Even the classmates who once teased her were clapping. Her heart swelled. For the first time, Emily felt seen, truly seen. The ripple of kindness. From that day forward, everything began to change. Emily still faced challenges, of course, but she was no longer invisible. Children who once mocked her now came to her with questions. "Can you write a story about me? Can you show me how you do that?" Her torn notebook became a symbol, not of weakness, but of resilience. She carried it proudly, filling it with new tales every day. Miss Parker continued to encourage her, often reminding the class, kindness can change someone's life. Sometimes, all it takes is one kind word, one moment of compassion, to give someone the courage to keep going. Emily never forgot that lesson. Years later, when she grew up, Emily became a writer. Her books, filled with stories of courage and kindness, touched thousands of readers. At every book signing, she carried that old, torn notebook with her, a reminder of where it all began. And whenever people asked her what inspired her, she would smile softly and say, "It all started with a torn notebook, a kind teacher, and the lesson."